I bought this abandoned AMG GT with a very questionable past. I've got two options on what I can do with this car. One is build it into my AMG dream car, that body kit. Now, I'm not a huge Mercedes fan, but this car I really do like. It's a V8 twin turbo. It's a GT style car, front engine, rear drive, big power. My dream would be to build this thing into an AMG GT3 race car for the street. Lots of power upgrades, suspension upgrades, wheels, and the factory AMG GT3 carbon fiber body kit. That's what I'd really like to do. But my other option is to repair the car and flip it and try to make some money. Now, it really depends on how far I get into this thing, what's actually wrong with the car, and deciding which direction to go, depending on how bad the car actually is. So this car sat outside abandoned for at least 3 years. It was one of my clients' cars. He had this car as a daily driver. He had a lot going on, plus COVID and all of that stuff, and I hadn't talked to him in 3 years. I couldn't get a hold of him. And then out of the blue, he gives me a call. And he's like, hey, I sold my house and I moved to New York. Can you go over there and pick up my car? I'm like, what car? He's like, my AMG GT is sitting at my house. I gotta get it out of there. I'm like, okay, can I go over and drive it away? No, it doesn't run. Okay, is the battery dead? I don't know, can you just figure it out? Well, I didn't have time to do that. He sent it to a Mercedes dealer. They looked it over and they refused to work on the car. They said it was gonna cost more to repair the car than the car was worth. All right, so there are a lot of damage points on this car, on the exterior alone. So we'll start out with the right front corner. Now, my first thing that kind of caught my eye was the wrap, right? So there was a wrap on it that he peeled off, but missed that spot. But looking a little lower, this front bumper damage is very concerning. That was a pretty hard hit. I don't know how much is damaged behind the bumper. The bumper might have flexed up, caused some damage in the back. It could have also, if it did go up a curb or something like that, it could have damaged the suspension, control arms, the chassis, the mounting points where the suspension bolts up to the chassis. So that's a big area of concern. We've got scuffs in the headlights. The headlights are pretty faded as well. If I am going to repair this car and try to sell it and try to get good money out of it, all of these cosmetic imperfections are absolutely 100% going to have to be repaired. The exterior is gonna have to look perfect for someone to want to buy it. Moving back to the sides, there's still wrap on the bottom. I'm not sure if there's any more damage on the under tray. I do know that in the rear, the under tray is ripped off. I'm not sure what's damaged down there. We haven't had this thing up on a lift yet. And then you can see there's some big sun damage on this car. That taillight is trash. That is not savable. We will not be able to buff that out and re-clear it. So taillight, this panel is coming apart. It's warped. It's actually warped worse on this corner. I'm not sure what happened here, but the tail is damaged. This taillight is also very faded. Clear coat's coming off. There's some scratches and stuff on the bumper. Coming into the interior, it's kind of a mess. We've got quite a bit of mold growing in there from this car just sitting. All this mold on the steering wheel, on the seat. Yeah, it's
bad, dude.
It's bad. Passenger seat, carpet. That's gonna need an extremely thorough cleaning. Might be in the headliner and everywhere else. That's gonna be thousands of dollars for someone to really detail the entire interior and make sure all that mold gets removed. Not just from the top layer, but underneath that top layer, there's foam. And I hope that that's not molded as well, because just one seat for this car is easily over $1,000. These things are gonna start adding up really quick. My biggest area of concern is the drivetrain. It's the engine. The car does not run. Cranks over, but it doesn't start. And as it's cranking, the pulses don't sound smooth. Either got like a lot of cylinders that are dead and maybe one cylinder that's decent, or one cylinder that's dead, a lot of cylinders that are decent, but either way, something's wrong with the engine. It won't start. When you crank it over, it smells like fuel is coming out of it. I don't know what's going on internally. We've also got some other issues and potentially a lot of hidden damage from a rat. As you can see over here, a rat has been in here chewing up a bunch of stuff. And when you see something like that, almost every single time I've seen that kind of damage, there are also rats that have been chewing on the wiring harness, on hoses, on bits of plastic. So until we really dig in, we're not gonna know how much is actually damaged. It could have eaten through the engine harness, could have eaten through the chassis harness. There's just no way of telling until we tear this whole thing down. I mean, right here, I see that the top of this was chewed off, and little bite marks on that wire, and that's just on the surface. And obviously rats are pretty small. and they can get down way deeper than we can see. The next step, before we tear anything apart in the engine compartment and drivetrain and all that, is take the car outside and give it a good wash so we can really tell all the damage points, kind of get an idea of how much money I'm gonna have to spend at the body shop to make this thing look nice again on the exterior. We gotta get this thing outside to wash it, so I gotta call the boys to come give me a hand to push this beast out here so we can rinse it off. You guys don't look like you're busy. Can you give me a hand?
Looks crazy.
The mold is, yeah. I'm not pumped on the mold. Oh, there's mold in there.
Yeah.
Oh, look at it, it's terrible. Bro. Yeah. There's some booty sweat mold. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nasty. I think that's right. Is that right? That's right. No. Let's see what happens. Whoa! Oh, that window rolled up by itself. There's like spider webs on the keys and stuff. There's all kinds of critters living in this thing. I don't want to sit in this moldy vehicle.
What kind of mold is that, Mike? Do you want to elaborate?
No, it looks like greenish, yellowish spores. Taste it. Nah.
$5. Wallet.
Soon there will be a shroom will sprout out of the seat.
All right. So what's the problem? You hear this? Click, click. Yep. Yeah, so it's like cutting out on and off, and it smells like
It's really bad. Transmission malfunction. Stop. Oof. No, it's not happy at all. Thing clicks off. So it's got the transmission malfunction stop. All right, I'm fitting it.
Oh!
It actually smells better in here than it does outside though.
Mike's got the cheese touch. Got it. There you go, pull the battery.
I'm going.
Both of them. Mold butt.
Get that mold butt. There we go.
Nice.
All right, now we can wash the car.
Mike, are you a big wash your car every Sunday in the driveway type of guy?
When I was like 15 and I had my first car, I got a 240Z that I bought for like 900 bucks or something. And I had a Datsun 510 also that I painted blue. It was awesome. Those cars, I'd put on the grass in the front yard, wash it, make them nice. Everything after that, I hate washing cars.
There you go.
So let's just concentrate on this one area.
Exactly. I'm following you, Mike. I'm following your lead.
So a couple weeks ago, Tim was washing Dave's McLaren, his 570 race car. And after that video, we got a bunch of DMs and comments on the video asking about our product that we had made before. So DD did have a car cleaning product back in the day. That was actually before my time, but that never took off. And now with the new HQ, that's not something that we have time to focus on. A friend told us about these products, the Bling Sauce Platinum, and how well it had worked for them and how quick and easy it was to use. So we tried them out here at the shop and we loved it. So that's what we're using now. Well, I'm gonna add that to the list of stuff to fix. So on the outside of the car, I'm using the Bling Sauce Secret Sauce Platinum. It's basically a ceramic coat for the outside. So now that we've got the car washed off and cleaned up, spray this on, wipe it, let it dry, and then polish it off. You're gonna get some protection on that paint, which obviously this car did not have any. They have a bunch of other stuff too for the interior, leather cleaner, screen cleaner for all your displays, off top cleaner if you have a rag top. But I'm not gonna do any of that other stuff right now. The interior is really nasty. Got to do like a deep clean in there first. Gonna focus on the outside for now. Going too deep, you're going too low. Rotating. Well, now that we cleaned it off, I can really see how bad the paint is. It is really wrecked. Washing it, soap, drying it, you could tell that that paint is really rough, and there are a ton of dings on the car, like all over. It's gonna need quite a bit of work to get back to like a 10 out of 10 original, like factory looking paint job. Whew. That was a lot of work. Because right now, looking at it up close, it looks really bad. It looks like a car that's 20 years old and it's only 5 or 6 years old, so it's not great. It needs new emblems. He had some patches over the original emblems, and there's hot glue on them. It's loose, it's wrapped, so all of this has to come apart. And there's actually pieces of paint that are missing from the front bumper from when they pulled the wrap off. It's just flaking away. Front bumper for sure needs to get repainted.
Hey Tim, I'm filming.
Shut up, Tim. So if we did have to replace that front bumper, I'm not sure how much that would cost. And that's when we kind of start to see like the offset of some prices of parts. If we buy a stock front bumper and replace it, or buy like the GT3 front bumper, take these parts off, sell some parts, maybe we can make a little bit of money back and be able to afford to buy that GT3 kit. I don't know yet though. We have to look up all of those body kit prices because the original GT3 kit's gotta be expensive. It's factory, carbon fiber. We'll get back to that later. But walking around the car, it's pretty wrecked. Like all of these things are kind of loose and falling out, and I'm not sure if that's just something from when he was pulling the wrap off, it started popping clips off. But if those clips are broken and the panels are broken, then we got to purchase new parts. I mean, you can see right here how badly faded the door handles are. Like everything needs some serious paint work, maybe even an entire respray, or at least a respray of clear on the whole car. Obviously, taillights are wrecked. I just looked that up. For a single taillight, it is just right around 800 bucks. You can't do just one new taillight, especially when the car's in this condition. This taillight's obviously damaged as well, so 2 taillights are at about 1,600 bucks just to replace those. Probably have to replace the tail. This section here, this is so bad and it's warped and lifting, so it might just be that whole assembly that needs to get replaced. The tires are old, those need to get replaced. The wheels are pretty beat up, not so much on the left side, but on the right side there's some curbing, so those would have to either be replaced or repaired. There's just a lot of things on this car would need to be addressed if we were going to stick with the factory bodywork. So exterior wise, I think bare minimum, probably 7,500 bucks. Get both the tail lights, polish the headlights out, make them look better, respray panels, fix some of the dents, fix that front bumper if possible. And then from there, it could just get more and more expensive. And that's just the exterior. But the real issue is what's under the hood and under the car. All the stuff that we can't see right now. We've got rat damage that we know of, but how bad is it? Until we really dig into it, we're not gonna know. Also, that bottom rear under tray panel is hanging off, so obviously there's some issues back there. I think the next step is let's get this car on the rack, put it up in the air, get a good look at it from the bottom and see what's really going on. All the way up there.
The rear wheels are locked up, so we're gonna use the jack to go under the diff and pull it back, or else we just roll it back, but we can't get out of gear.
Got some taillights?
It's alive. Oh, now we don't.
Now we go.
Yo, look at this taillight compared to this one. That's that ceramic coat, brother.
Sloppy. Yeah, that's a good sign right there. Mercedes dealership. They were like, this car is so bad, don't even bother putting the bolts back on it. And they still charge them 1,300 bucks.
You see where the coolant was leaking out?
Yeah? Oh yeah, I mean pouring out of the top of the motor somewhere?
Yeah. Well, he said he had to like pull over and fill it up, right?
Yeah, so let's see what's going on in the back. So far back here looks fine. Ish. I mean, there. Some debris from going off-road.
Oh! Shoelaces around the...
Those are factory. Oh. Those are safety straps.
I need those.
Yeah, they keep your engine from jumping out. Yep. Give you guys a little bit of a backstory on what happened with this car. One of my clients bought this car. The first day he got it, he took it to the racetrack. He took it out to Willow Springs, did some laps, drove it home, drove it around town, drove it at a bunch of different racetracks over a couple years of time. And then the last time he drove this car was also driving it to Willow Springs. And then at the track, he went off in the last corner, which is a really fast corner. It's over 100 miles an hour. And when you mess up, it's all dirt and big gravel, like big chunks of rocks. Tore the bottom of the car up. Then he proceeded to pull it off the track, drive it home. It was spilling coolant out while he was driving and the car was overheating. So he said he made multiple stops on his way home, 200-mile drive back home, and put water into it. Hot engine, overheating, pouring cold water into it. That's never a good recipe for success, and now it doesn't run. He got it home, he made it, he parked it in his driveway in his little overhang. That was it. That was the end of the story. The car was never started after that. All right, so I'm starting to look at everything on the bottom of the car, see if there is any other spots where I can see any wiring damage, hose damage, anything like that that could have been from the rats, and also trying to figure out what's broken, what's cracked, where are we leaking coolant from. At this point, I don't see any hoses that are broken or pipes that are broken. I do see a lot of oil that's on the bottom of the engine, all over the back here. That's not something I would be used to seeing on a car with, 30 or 40,000 miles. That's pretty unusual. I don't know the Mercedes stuff that well, especially this car. So I don't know if that's just an issue that these cars have. They just have oil leaks, or if that's something that happened when the engine was overheating. That's a bit concerning. Yeah, it's got some more oil up there on top of the valve cover. But yeah, let me go to the back and see if I can find anything, because that under tray looks like it took some serious damage. Looking at this, the way that this is ripped off, it looks like he went off the track and then spun backwards, and then all that gravel came into the under tray this way. So, oh, I got water dripping on me. I wonder if that's from the car wash. It could be from the car wash. Oh, that was tasty. Yep. That's not supposed to be like that, right? Nah. That looks slightly bent. Kind of worries me though, like bending like that in the middle.
Or something like bottom.
Yeah, bottom out really hard. It didn't get the case.
Yeah,
at least doesn't look like. I thought maybe there was like water line that went to the transmission, like to a transcooler.
But didn't he hit something up here?
He did. He hit something in the right front corner. I mean, he hit this, but
oh, that's cool, man.
From what he said, he hit this trying to make a U-turn in the rain and give some throttle and understeered instead of oversteered, and then he went into a curb and went up a curb. Apparently that's what happened over there.
I bet it busted out the bottom of this cooler right here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch.
It's like a water cooler.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of water stains over here and coming back from this under tray, right? All in the middle. All right, I'm gonna take that off too. If you guys didn't know, DDE merch comes with these pockets that are really good for holding all your fasteners as you're working. Just drop them right in there.
That was a pretty sick plug, I'm not gonna lie.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Lots of rocks in that thing.
So we got our water line here to the center radiator, and then looks like we've got a left and right radiators. We'll put the car down and just put water in it, see where it's coming from. I mean, that's gonna be the easy way to figure out what's going on here. So that's still got coolant in it, but I don't know, maybe that's the for the intercooler system, and then this is the actual radiator coolant. That makes sense why that's empty.
Bone dry.
All right, well, it shouldn't take much water then to pour in here and get it to pour out of wherever it's leaking from. So in the video on the Stories channel that we did on this car, we also found that there is oil and water mixing in the dry sump tank. We pulled the dipstick out, and that is not good. So that's something that you'd see when you have a blown head gasket. Oil and water are mixing together. That's bad news. I don't know how bad it actually is on this car. If it's just a head gasket, that's not an easy fix, but that's not insanely expensive. If it got overheated really badly, it's an aluminum block, it's aluminum heads. You could have cylinders that start to distort. The surface of the head can warp, the surface of the block can warp and cause that head gasket to fail. So it could appear at first like it's a bad head gasket, but it's a bad head gasket because the block and the head have warped. Sometimes that happens and you cannot machine it back straight. The block is so warped that it's just not savable. You cannot buy another block from Mercedes. Let's see what we're gonna do here and see what the real damage is. I hear some water moving, but I don't see it leaking yet. If the engine's toast, a used engine is anywhere from like 25, 26 grand and up that I've been looking at, and you never really know the condition when you buy a used engine from a wrecking yard. But if the engine is damaged and I can take it apart and actually rebuild it and put some better parts in it, change the rods, change the pistons, maybe upgrade the turbos, exhaust, tune, intercooler, you know, all the goodies, and get this thing up to like 1,000 horsepower with the wheels, maybe more. I've seen guys that have 1,000 horsepower in these things with a stock engine.
Really?
Yeah, they're pretty mean. That would be the goal. If we do the GT3 wide body kit, build this engine, and this thing's gonna rip. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, hopefully, someday.
It's definitely going down, so the water's going somewhere.
Yeah, the water could just be running directly into the block right now. All right, so I got this universal coolant pressure system tester. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the right fitting to fit onto the Mercedes water tank cap. So I'm gonna have to modify this one. Basically, I'm gonna take this centerpiece out of here, pop that out, drill a hole, put an insert in there, and then hopefully we'll be able to check this thing out and see if the engine is complete garbage or if there's a hole in the radiator hose or something, but this is gonna tell us what's going on.
I'm guessing you didn't have the right one.
Nope, but they have an adapter, a little custom job there. Might still need a little bit more mods, but let's see.
That's solid. Dude, yeah. Custom. A little bolt with some silicone.
There we go. Pump it up. What?
Dude, it's just like pumping all the water out of there.
And it's not leaking on the floor.
Yeah, it's basically empty. That's in the floater. For sure.
Yeah, it's filling up the cylinder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the oil pan.
Yeah.
What do you hear, Sean?
The ocean.
What's that? Jimmy?
Jimmy.
He's stuck in a well?
Sinking. Well, yeah. I mean,
That's not good.
There's no water coming out.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, it's pumping water into the engine, whether it's inside of leaking through the head gasket and leaking into the cylinder, whether the block is cracked and it's just leaking coolant directly into the oil pan or dry sump pan on this engine.
This is dry sump?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good engine when it's broken. It's a better engine when it's running though.
Is there a drain on the pan, on the dry sump pan?
Yeah. I think that's the next step. Drain it, put more water in it, pressurize it, and then just see if it's squirting out. And then we'll know if it's internal as far as like in the combustion chamber going into the cylinder. The water will just fill up a cylinder or cylinders and it won't immediately leak past the rings. It'll be really slow. But if it's going like a cracked block and it's going directly into the pan, if we pull the plug, drain the oil, pressurize it again, it'll just be water running out of there. And then at that point, we'll know what's wrong with it.
Rusty.
Nasty.
Ew. Damn, look at all that.
Oh my God. Hey, Steve, you ready for a little milkshake?
Yeah, let's do it.
Man, that's tight. Sheesh. Why are you pointing it towards me like that?
I was just so you can see it. The threads don't feel good either.
That's not good.
They're real tight. Should just come out by hand. Get it up there. Oh, look at all water.
Whoa.
Oh!
Milkshake.
Yeah, that's up.
Hey Tim, you have your morning coffee yet?
A latte?
Sheesh. I think it's going in the cylinder. I think it overheated. I don't know why it overheated. He was running it on the track. Wow.
Looks like all my SRs.
It's not like it has a crazy tune or anything like that. Even the exhaust is stock, intercoolers, intakes, like everything's stock. So not sure why it would have overheated unless he was already like low on water. Hard to say right now, but I think that the water is going in the cylinder.
Get them.
Wait, what about that one?
Well, that one was a sacrifice.
Oh my gosh. Sean.
I guess all it took was a quarter turn, huh, Sean?
Crazy.
Oh, man. That's...
Well, figure out how to drain this.
Like, it is like a quarter turn. It just like rotate. Boom. That's crazy.
It looked like just like a cap on the covers, and then you could get to the bolt. That's wild.
Well, Mike, doesn't look good.
It does not look good. Car's a mess. The engine's a mess. Sean's a mess. The floor's a mess. It's a big mess. So at this point, it looks like it could either be a cracked block or a really warped head and a bad head gasket pouring water into the cylinders. Either way, that means the engine's gonna have to come out and complete disassembly, which is a big, big project. Yeah. You wanna see if it's just pouring out right now? I mean, this was full before.
Gonna give the engine a little wash.
Give it a nice little rinse. All right, we got 15 pounds and it's dropping in the coolant tank. Looks like it's empty now. So a lot of water just moved somewhere. Is it dripping any more right now?
I mean, it's pretty. It flows. It's lavender.
It's steady. But that's about how it was before, right?
So maybe just getting past the rings. Yeah.
Slowly, because it's filling the cylinder.
Yeah, it didn't really.
Didn't change a whole lot.
Yeah,
right?
It wasn't like it was pumping straight to the pan.
Yeah.
Cylinder.
Yeah.
Head gasket.
Head gasket,
Warped
but
head.
that could also mean warped head, warped block.
Yeah.
Knowing that he drove this thing 200 miles home and he didn't stop and wait for it to cool off to put water in it. I think that's why we've got all the spray up here. I think it was probably hot. He's taking the radiator cap off and it was spraying and then he was filling it up with cold water.
Cracking. I mean, that could.
Back on, definitely could crack a block. The block is super hot and overheating. You dump cold water into it, you can definitely crack. It's getting more and more.
It's aluminum block?
It's aluminum block, aluminum heads. One of the biggest issues is that these blocks have like a spray-on liner. It's not like it's a cast iron sleeve or a steel sleeve or something like that, so you can't machine it. Maybe we could machine it out and put sleeves in it, but I haven't found anybody that does that yet, but I haven't really looked into it yet. But if the block is so warped that it's not machinable, like you can't take off enough material to make the block straight again, to make the head straight, bore out the cylinders, maybe even the crankshaft, like the journal bearings where the crankshaft rides, you'd have to line bore that and get everything straight. So by the time you do all that stuff, it could be like $15,000 to $20,000 just in sleeves and engine machine shop labor, and then the new parts. Like it could end up costing 25 grand to rebuild this engine. We'll see when we take it apart, see what's going on. So I've always loved cars with this design. One of my first cars was a 240Z, that long nose GT style, and this has that same look to it, except this has a twin turbo V8 engine. This is gonna be an absolute beast of a car. If we could get this car back together, build the engine, get a bunch of horsepower out of it, and put on that Mercedes GT3 AMG kit, it would look absolutely insane. I love the look of that car. Just to have that kit on this car and have it on the street, that would be a dream come true. All right, so basically we've discovered that the engine needs to come out of the car. There's obviously a big issue. Oil and water are mixing together. We're not sure what the source of the issue is yet, whether it's a cracked sleeve in the block, whether it's a cracked block, whether the head gasket failed and the head's warped. We're not going to be able to tell until we get this engine out of the car. And then I can make a decision. Once we get the engine out and tear it down, we can see what's salvageable from the engine. If everything is basically trash, we have to purchase another used engine to put in the car. That might change the direction of this project. I want to take this engine out. I want to repair it. I want to upgrade everything. Upgrade the internals in the engine, the turbos, the tune, the exhaust, all that, and get 1,000 horsepower out of this engine to the wheels, hopefully, maybe even more. That would be the ideal goal. If everything in this engine is garbage and it's not salvageable, then I have a big decision to make, because I can either buy another engine for 25 to 30 grand, drop it in the car, get the car running, maybe just sell it. But if I can salvage the parts from this engine and buy some new parts and build a race engine for that same 25 grand, well, then I'm moving forward, and now I'm gonna start looking for a body kit and wheels and all the other parts that are gonna go on to making this just an insane GT3 factory street car build. So until we get the engine out, we have no idea what's going to happen. But in the next video, we're gonna drop the engine and the transmission because it's gonna come out as a whole unit. So basically the entire drivetrain is gonna drop out of the car. We're gonna pull the engine off of the drivetrain, get it on an engine stand, and start diagnosing what is going on with this car. So if you guys are enjoying this AMG content, stay tuned because we're gonna have another video up very soon of us pulling the engine out of this thing.